Hello and welcome back to this course, Introduction to Java Programming Language. We trust you are enjoying this class. Again, this is a presentation of coding boot camps. So again, we are still in session 7, a deeper dive into classes and objects. In this video, we are going to discuss overloading constructors. And recently, we completed encapsulation. We also completed this keyword. And we have done structures, we have done loops, we have done instantiation, objects. So we've made great progress in our review and discussion in class of building Java applications. So overloading in computer programming is quite common. If you've ever seen a method or a function where it appears to be the same function, but you pass in different data, chances are very good that that is an overloaded method or function. So we define multiple constructors with the same name, but we pass in a different number or different types of parameters. That's how, in this case, Java knows which of the constructors to call. So we can see in this case we have a class named perimeter. And we have a very special method, again, called a constructor, also called perimeter. And we also see another very special method, which is a constructor, also called perimeter. Well, how does Java know which of these perimeter constructors to call? Well, as we can see here, the input parameters are different. So this constructor takes one integer, whereas this constructor right here takes two integers. So if we see down here in the main method where class perimeter is actually instantiated, we see here the class P1 of type perimeter, which is the class, equals new perimeter, where here we're calling the constructor. Which constructor is being called? This constructor, where it outputs here the circle perimeter, and it's doing the calculation. We see here that we're also creating P2 of type perimeter, which is the class, but here we're saying it is the constructor. We're calling the constructor that takes two integers, which is going to be right here, and this time a rectangle perimeter is calculated. So that's how Java knows which of the constructors to call. And not only constructors can be overloaded, methods can also be overloaded. And library methods and library classes can also have overloaded methods. One of the more well-known overloaded methods is this print line. This print line sometimes takes integers, sometimes takes, in this case, we can see a string. So print line is an example of a reusable method that we get out of the box that is overloaded. A constructor with no parameters is called the default constructor or the no args constructor. And there's also an implicit constructor. A constructor is not required. When that happens, Java will actually run or call what's called the implicit constructor. And if we take a look here, we can actually see an example of a default constructor that doesn't take any parameters. You could see here we are again creating the D1 and the D2 objects of type demo. So we're instantiating the class demo and creating objects D1 and D2. And in both cases, we are calling the constructor demo here, and you'll be able to see the output here from the default constructor. So again, we are going to take a quick look at an example from our labs that we'll be doing. And so please, after we go over that, please take a look at the labs. This is just a brief example of the lab that we'll be looking at. Again, this is just one example. You may have a different way to do this, but you can see here that we have our class called vehicle. And we have two constructors, and we know they're constructors because they're both called vehicle. Overloaded constructors, so we see here is a default constructor, it takes no parameters, and here is a constructor that takes a string parameter. So if we go down to the main method, Before we go down there, you can see what the constructors actually do to initialize. Here, it looks like in this one, the variables get initialized to 0 and the strings get initialized. And then we can see here that we initialize owner name to what's passed in here. So if we go down to the main method, we can see here we're creating vehicle 1 of type vehicle. So we're instantiating the vehicle class and creating object vehicle 1. And then we're calling the constructor that takes a string. So when we're done with this lesson, please take a look at the lab and we'll actually get some work with overloaded constructors.